Good morning, everybody. So today we are going to learn how to do this image right here in Photoshop. And these are just pretty basic things in Photoshop, and I think that you'll find it's pretty easy. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go up and I'm going to create a new image. So I'm going to come over here. I'm choosing 11 by 17. I want to make sure that my color mode is CMYK. My background is transparent. I've got 11 by 17. I'm going to do this in portrait. That's what the tall one means. And I'm just going to go ahead and choose create. So now I personally have a keyboard shortcut to give myself guides, but let's go ahead and create them from scratch. We're going to go View, New Guide, Vertical. I'm going to type in 50. Whoops. Got to type in %. Hit OK. View. New guide. Now we're going to do horizontal. 50%. Hit OK. Now I'm going to come down here over on the bottom right and give myself a shirt color. So I'm going to the circle here that has like a half full circle, we're going to click on that and we're going to choose solid color, and that's going to give us a t-shirt color like so. So let's choose white for the moment. That'll be easy to see. So I'm just going to click on white. Now we can change that anytime by double clicking this picture here. We can go to black, we can go to red or pink or any of those things, but like I said, for now we're going to go with white, and we can come back and change that later. All right, so let's get started. We're going to do this using Photoshop Shapes. It's just such a cool tool in Photoshop and easy for everybody. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and change my colors back to black and white. I'm going to go over here to the shape thing, which is this starfish kind of thing. And we're going to use the custom shape tool. And so the first thing we're going to do is do our sun, which I just used a regular plain circle. Now the reason I'm using a shape instead of the ellipse tool is so I can use what's called type on a path. And I'll show you how to do that in just a second. All right, so we can create either freeform it, or we can create the exact dimensions that we want. So let's try just using the exact dimensions. So I'm going to use 1500 pixels by 1500 pixels here. Excuse my cat. We're going to go from the center and we're going to preserve the proportions. So I'm going to hit OK. And I'm just going to bring that over, and notice it just popped a circle over there. So I'm just going to bring it over here, and I can change the size of it by just dragging the handles. So I think that's probably about the size that I want. And now I want to change it to an orange color. Now what we want to do is we want to create a color overlay. So we've got our circle. We're going to go up to layer, layer style, and we're going to choose color overlay. And now, and what you're going to want to do, depending on where your style is you want to make sure that color overlay is checked right here. So then you just click on this blue box, and then you're going to pick the color that you want. Now remember, you've chosen CMYK. So let's find a good, I think I had mine a little bit more orange. Maybe a little more orange than that. Okay, I think that looks good. And what I'm really trying to do here is keep myself from having any black in it, so we can have a nice crisp yellow, orangish color. So let's go with that. All right, and then we're going to hit OK. And now what's really awesome about that is that we can change this color of the sun at any time by just clicking on the color over, double clicking on the color overlay and just changing it. So you don't have to fill it or do anything like that. You can just change the color. And the reason that works is this is really kind of like a smart object when you use the shape tool. Okay, so now we've got our sun, and now we want to add the waves. So we'll go back over to our shape tool, and we're going to come up here, and you're going to have all these selections of shapes. If you don't have your legacy shapes, which it might look like this, and I have some that I've purchased over the years, but your shape panel should look something like this. But if you don't have the legacy shapes, you're going to go up here to your gear icon, restore default shapes. Okay? All right, so now we're going to go down to, I'm going to open this legacy shapes and more, and I'm looking for the lakes and hills. So see, here's our lakes and hills. Now, unfortunately, they're not very big, so it's hard to see them. But I selected this one right here. It's the third one from the right. All right. So here's our shape. And you can select however you want it. So let's say we want 2,000 pixels wide. We can hit OK. And you can make your shape look like this. And then just, again, you can stretch it to however you want. Now, I wanted mine to be a little bit taller, so I chose mine to be a square. So let me show you how to do that. Let me just delete this one. And you can choose however you want it. So we'll go back up to the shapes, choose that same one, and then this time I'm going to make it a square. So I'll make it 2,000 by 2,000, and that's going to warp it. Whoops, I'm going to uncheck preserve proportions, and that's going to give me more of a square wave. And then I'm just going to click it, and then here is our square shape. And that's clearly too big. So we can make it like so. You can just shape it however you want to. Now you can distort it if you wanted to by right-clicking, distort. You can pull it out like so. So there's lots of different things you can do with the free transform and the distort. Free transform, and you can scale, rotate, skew, distort. You'll have to play with those. But for now, that's what I'm looking for. So now I want to change the color. Obviously, I don't want black waves. So now I'm going to go up, layer, whoops. I hit enter to accept the change. So now I'm going to go to layer, layer style, color overlay, and let's choose a nice blue. Now remember, if you see this exclamation point here, that means that CMYK, that's not a CMYK color. So if you click on that, it'll take you to more of a CMYK color. So I want mine to be a little more blue. And that looks pretty good. Again, I'm trying to find something that doesn't have black in it. So I'm going to choose that, and I'm going to hit OK. OK. And so now I've got some waves. And now we can get started in cleaning this thing up. So the first thing I want to do is get rid of the sun behind the waves. So I'm going to go over to my circle, or a layer mask, by clicking on the paper down here, paper with the square with the circle. It's early, y'all. Okay, so that's giving me a layer mask. We're going to paint inside. We're going to get a brush. We're going to go over here and click on our paper icon, our color icon. We're going to get our brush tool. Now I still have mine from yesterday that I made with the Distress. So I'm just going to click on, you can click here, you can click here, and we're just looking for a hard, round brush. And you can come over here and choose your size, or you can use your arrow keys. Okay, so I want to paint in black, and I'm just going to get rid of the sun by painting in right here, because I don't want the sun to be behind the waves. And I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger, just kind of paint it out. All right, that looks pretty good. And now for the coolest part about shapes is it actually creates a path that you can type on. So now let's first move this up a little bit. So I'm just gonna hit shift and click on my circle and do my move tool. I'm just gonna bring it up and maybe even make it a little bit smaller. Hit enter to accept the change. Now I'm going to go over to my type tool. I'm going to make sure that I am choosing center mode. And I chose this font, Chicle. You can choose whatever font you want. And let's do like a 200 size. And then what you're going to do is you're going to pull your type tool down until you see the shape change. And it gives you like that curve. And that means it's typing on a path. And you need to be, the circle's got to be selected. So I'm just going to click there. And notice it gives me type all the way around that circle. And so I'm going to type in happiness. And I think that's a little too big. So I'm going to go up to my type panel up here. And let me pull up my character panel. And I'm basically going to just, let me double click that. So I just double click the word happiness. And I'm just going to kind of make it a little bit smaller. Now you can also change your spacing between the letters by coming over here and pulling down, or you can manually type it in. So I think I'm going to use like maybe a 10 there. And while it's highlighted, you can change your color. Now I selected this orange color that I had. You can do it here because I had already used this. Or again, you can come over here and double click it and choose whatever color that you like. So that is what it looks like. Now let's say you say, well, geez, that's a little too close to the sun. So now you're going to go over to your character panel. And you'll see this A with the arrow up, and this is where you're going to make that change. Now you can either manually type it in here, or you can just drag this and it'll just go up higher like so. All right, so now we've got our happiness taken care of there. And now we're going to type comes in waves. So again, I'm looking for, I'm going to use black for the moment. So I'm just going to type down here, I want it to be center justified. And I'm going to click. And I'm just going to type comes in. And I'm going to make that just a little bit smaller. And hit return, and then I'm going to do waves separately. And let me get these a little bit closer together. So let me double click and maybe something like that. Okay, and now I'm going to do another layer with waves because I'm going to knock this text out. So I'm going to come back over here to my type tool. I'm just going to click on it here. And I'm going to type in waves. Now I'm going to click my move tool, bring it down to where I want it. And then I'm just going to drag my handles because I want it to be the same size as comes in. And let's see. I don't want much leading there. Okay. And you'll just adjust it as you want. And there we go. Okay. So now let's work on this. We're going to make that. What I'm going to do is actually make a layer mask on our shape, our wave, and put it inside so there's just nothing there. So let's click on our wave, make a layer mask with the paper with the circle in it. I'm going to come up here to my magic wand tool. You can hit W on your keyboard. And then I'm just going to click on wave, on comes in waves. There's the black. And I'm just making sure that I'm on the layer mask. Shift F5, fill with black. And then all I have to do now is hide my comes in text. And now it has been knocked out of our blue waves. So now that we've got all of that done, now I just want to distress it a little bit and export it over into ProRip. So I am going to take all of this. Let's see. I'm going to duplicate all these. Sorry, I'm going to duplicate the layers. Hit OK. Because I want to be able to change it later if I want. And so now on my duplicated layers, I'll just right click and merge those. And so then we can turn all this other stuff off so we don't see it. And you can see if I turn off my background, you'll see that's what it looks like. And so now we're just going to take a distress brush, and I have loaded one into the file section of the White Toner Transfer Success Group. You can use that brush or any other brush that you have. We're going to create a new layer mask. So I'm going to go down here, create a layer mask, come over to my brush tool, make sure you're painting in black, click on my file folder. Now I have loaded my distress brush, and yours may look a little different. You can make it as big as you possibly can. Now, if you see there, it didn't give us the whole thing distressed. So I am going to rotate my brush by going over here to brush settings, and I'm just going to rotate it 90 degrees. Make sure it's still 5,000 pixels. And just click, and there we have it. Now, if you don't like all of that, and I can see that I don't have the waves done, so let me Command Z, Control Z to undo that, and just kind of get in the center. All right, so now we'll go up and maybe, because I didn't get all of that in there. Let me make sure my angle is 90. And I want this to be kind of exactly in the center. Okay, so that's going to give us everything a little bit distressed. And if there's parts of that that you think is too much, you can just paint back in with white. Come over here in white, change your brush to a round one. Change your size, 5,000 pixels is obviously going to be too big. And then you could just come in here and just add back a little of that if you think you had too much distressing. See what I'm doing here? Let me expand that for you. So if you think that you've had a little too much distressing, say around your edges, you could just go back in and fill some of that in. And I'm just dragging my mouse so you can just add some back to your letters. Now let's fit on screen. And there you have it. So now all we need to do is export it into ProRep, and then I'll show you how to create some presets. So I hope this video was helpful.